Noise Radio. Powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. All Noise Radio is an internet radio station that's fully produced by graduates of the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. From modern rock to old school hip hop, country to classical, news, talk, sports, and more. It's the noise you can't ignore. Log on to allnoiseradio.com. Fire up the station. Find out more about your favorite jocks. Get the latest CSB news and more. Plus, you can take All Noise Radio with you on the go for free. Just download the Live 365 app to your iPhone, iPod Touch, or BlackBerry and search All Noise Radio. Check out tomorrow's broadcasters today at allnoiseradio.com. Powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Sit back down and shut your trap. It's time for
Keeping It Sports with M3, right here on All Noise Radio.
Are you ready?
Are you ready?
Well, I'll need some beer.
Are you ready?
You have to ask me nicely.
Come on now, don't be bashful.
Are you ready? Are you ready for
Place for the best sports talk and news surrounding each league.
I can prove it with my usual flawless logic.
Hey man, this time we'll do it my way.
What's your name again?
And now, here's your host, M3, Mike Rosansky. Coming to you from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. It's time for Keeping It Sports with M3, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're all doing well today on this Monday, the 27th of January, or, at least doing better today. Because, if you're as big a sports fan as I am, big sports nut as I tend to be, fan of all sports, especially the NBA, you're hurting today. You're in pain today. It's a day of sadness, grieving, and pain after the news that we received yesterday. And quite frankly, I still don't know how to comprehend the fact that Kobe Bryant has passed away at the way too early of age of 41 years old. Life taken from him in a helicopter crash yesterday in Columbus, California. And, I first saw this news yesterday around 2:30. I had just gotten done working out. I went on my iPod, was looking on Twitter, seeing what's going on, seeing what's trending, seeing what everyone's talking about. And I come across the article on TMZ's Twitter account, and at first I'm thinking, all right, no. This can't be true. There's no way possible. This feels like some kind of prank here. Someone's trying to pull something over on all of us. And you see that time and time again with some fake media outlets. And I'm checking to make sure it's got that check mark next to it to see if that's really the account for TMZ. Then as I start scrolling through Twitter, I see a LA media account posted. I'm seeing every professional athlete and sports personality that I follow on Twitter putting up posts in shock and disbelief. And the more that came out, it unfortunately turned out to be true that one of the best basketball players of my lifetime is no longer with us because of a helicopter crash. And, I know that there's some people out there wondering, a helicopter crash, why was he flying in a helicopter? Well, it's something he tended to do during his playing days. That, as the story goes, they'd get back from a road trip, land at say 1:30 in the morning. He'd have his helicopter right there, take off, take him right to his house so he could avoid driving through LA. He did that at any cost possible with the traffic that they have out there at times. And just something that he loved to do, unfortunately took his life and the lives of 9 other people. At first it was, this is the part, that pissed me off yesterday. It seemed that so many outlets were so quick to rush with stories, so quick to rush with, let me be the first person to report on this. Let me be the first one that has the big headline, the story about Kobe Bryant, that I won't get all my facts straight before reporting anything. And you're seeing them put out reports saying that, all 4 of his kids, including his newborn daughter from late last year, were on the helicopter. You're seeing reports that, his former teammate Rick Fox was on the helicopter. Thank God, came to find out that part wasn't true. But unfortunately, what would turn out to be true from it was that his oldest daughter, Gianna, only 13 years of age, she was on the helicopter, along with teammates of hers from her travel basketball team, their parents, the names of which have all been released to the public on the departed. And it just, I've always said in situations like this, any more than one person dying is way too many. And unfortunately, today, nine people, lost their lives in something that's just, an everyday occurrence for Kobe. As I said, taking that helicopter. And could this have been avoided? In all likelihood, probably, because the main reason of this crash, as it seems, is it was really foggy out yesterday, and as the helicopter began to head upwards to avoid a mountain nearby, that's when it suddenly dove and headed toward their untimely fate. And fortunately took the lives of all 9 of them, and changed the lives of hundreds of people forever. In particular their families, because that's the first ones your hearts go out to, is the families, those who lost a loved one, those who are grieving today. But then, especially, in this case, the one that we're paying most attention to, of course, Kobe and Gianna. And, you're thinking about Kobe's wife, Vanessa. You're thinking about the 3 other kids of Kobe Bryant, and thinking about how this woman lost her husband, lost her oldest child. Those kids lost their father and their big sister, and their world is shook. Their world is never going to be the same. And I just hope that they didn't find out finding out about this tragic event. Their first findings of this were not based off TMZ or any news article, nothing like that, that they were informed about this first before any of the outlets came out to report this. It's just, it's a sad day for fans everywhere, fans like yours truly, because first you have the fact that he's a recently retired player. His last game was April 2016. It's been less than 4 years since we've seen Kobe play in the NBA. It's not like, he's been retired for 30, 35 years and then got sick and natural causes took him away. No. He left this world way too soon, 41 years old, a wife who's still very young, 3 kids who are one who just became a teenager, 3 others that haven't entered that stage of their lives yet. And now you think back today as a fan, you think of how larger than life this guy was, because I could say this for me. Being that I'm only 31 years of age, even though I got to see a bit of Jordan, I'm not old enough to truly appreciate everything of Michael Jordan's career. The Wizards' Michael Jordan, I really don't count as far as the legacy of the greatest of all time. So Kobe was that first great one for me. He was our Michael Jordan, and now you look back. He comes out of high school from Lower Merion High School, Pennsylvania, at only 17 years of age. At the time, was the youngest player in NBA history, going on to have a 20-year career, all with the purple and gold. And think, he came into the league at 17, played 20 years old with the Lakers. That means he was a Laker. When he retired, he was an NBA player. He was a Laker longer than he was not in the NBA. And, there was a lot of ups and downs throughout his career, more ups than downs in his playing career, especially when you consider as a rookie in the playoffs against Utah. That's kind of what lit the fire for him. He comes in Game 5 and was kind of relied on to be the guy after Bob Horry got ejected and Shaq fouled out. And he had an embarrassing end to his season with the 4 air balls, the missing the game winner in regulation, airballing 3-pointers and overtime. And that just set a fire in him, saying, never again am I going to let this happen. I'm going to work my ass off. No one is going to outwork me. And I'm going to live up to what I said I was going to come into this league and do. And that's not just be the next Michael Jordan, but be better than Michael Jordan. And you think a teenager coming into the league, the gall to say that, to have that mindset that, I'm the new Michael Jordan. And he gave everything he had every single night. In a day and age where you're seeing players with the load management take nights off, not play back-to-back, sometimes take defensive possessions off. No, he was as tenacious a competitor as there ever has been in this league and probably ever will be, with the aforementioned things that have changed in the league over the years, players' mindsets, his will, his drive to be great, not just on the offensive end with how many scoring records he set, but on the defensive end as well. I think he was, 12 or 13 time all defensive NBA player, made the defensive team so many times. And as I said, he left us with so many indelible memories with all of the record-setting scoring nights he had. Whether it be, his final matchup against Michael Jordan with the Wizards, putting up 55 against him, or the first time he climbed over the 60-point mark when he threw 3 quarters against the Mavericks in December of 2005. He outscored them 62 to 61 in a amazing performance. And less than a month later, he scores 81 against the Raptors. Poor, Jalen Rose still probably hasn't recovered from that shellacking guarding him most of the night. And it was just less than a week ago. Last Wednesday, we were celebrating 14 years since that amazing accomplishment, and now just 4 days later, he leaves this world too soon. And said so many accomplishments to look back on, so many games where it's just what you look at and you're like, in the words of Mark Jackson, "Mama, there goes that man again." I mean, he 65 against the Blazers, had that amazing run in March of 2007 where he had 4 straight games of 50-plus games. The record-setting night he had at the time in 2009 against the Knicks at MSG, putting up 61. And then, of course, his final game of his career against the Jazz, where in front of all of the Lakers legends there that night, Shaq in the house, Kareem, his head coach Byron Scott, who actually was a teammate of his when he came into the league, all there to witness this man in his final game at 37 years of age put up 60 points that night. I think 40 of it was in the second half. Just an unbelievable performance. And we all knew he was at the end. He had started to break down. He had the Achilles two years prior, shoulder problems, the knee problems that forced him to only play 19 games the year prior. But now, if he was physically able to walk out on that court, he was going to give it his all. He said he played through having the flu at times, played through injuries the entire 2008 season. He played through a thumb injury and delayed the surgery just so he could give his team the best chance at beating the Celtics in the finals, unfortunately coming up short. At best chance for Team USA in that loaded roster with LeBron, Wade, Melo, and company at bringing the gold back. And no, that was just his mentality, the Mamba mentality, as I mentioned. It transformed over the years, whether it was, as a teenager, his mindset to be better than Jordan, then to, work harder than everybody else, play through the injuries that some might decide to check out that night. Of course, when it comes to Kobe's story, you can't ignore the off-the-court stuff. What happened in Colorado in 2003 is the lone black mark on him as a player and him as a person. Just even though that eventually would get settled in court, just the fact that he put himself in that situation was something that he had to try to repair, try to overcome, because he lost endorsements in that. His jersey sales went down, as well as the feud he had with Shaquille O'Neal after the 2004 season that led to Shaq getting traded to the Heat. The feud he had with Phil Jackson when Phil left, and Phil called him uncoachable in at least one of the two books that he wrote. And how there were a lot of people mad at Kobe at that time, especially Laker fans, that were annoyed that he seemingly won this power struggle with Shaq, and they would have rather have kept Shaq and let Kobe Bryant go, and rather than him signing the 7-year extension at the time. I mean, it got so bad that there were people out in California that were making threats of physical harm toward Kobe, that Shaq eventually stepped in and said, "Hey, this is a basketball thing. This is not a personal thing. So everyone knock off the nonsense, knock off the crap as far as making threats toward Kobe Bryant's well-being." And they eventually, moved on from this feud. And the All-Star game in 2006, where they were the co-MVPs, that did a lot to mend fences and repair this broken relationship between the two, and restore a bond of brothers between the two of them too. Even after Kobe's playing days, Kobe's post-playing days looked like they were going to be as phenomenal as his NBA career, with the fact that he had already began establishing himself as a brand when he was a player. But as he retired, he started a business with Jeff Steibel, focused on media, data, gaming, and technology, entitled Bryant Steibel Inc., I believe it was called, or firm. He 2 years ago became, we know he was very involved in film and animated film. He won an Academy Award for his animated short film, Dear Basketball, becoming the first first former pro athlete to win an Academy Award, but the first African American to win the award for Best Animated Short Film. And then the book he came out with, Mamba Mentality, the kid's book, pictures of his career and talking about his career. It's just, you look back on all that, you reflect on all that, and you think he still had so much more to give the world, so much more to bring upon this world. And it's hard to even think about it. It's hard to even let it set in. It still seems so surreal that he's no longer with us. As I said, I was praying to God that this was some damn joke when I first saw this yesterday. That someone was just trying to pull the wool over us, because this was a week that seemed like it was so celebratory, with the Baseball Hall of Fame announcement, to a Giants icon announcing his retirement, the NBA All-Star starting lineups being announced, the debut of what we hope is the next big star in the NBA, to Kobe's teammates on Team USA, LeBron, passing him on the all-time scoring list, to just 12 short hours later, the man he passed on that list, arguably the greatest guard in NBA history, Kobe Bean Bryant, leaves us at the way too early age of 41 years old. And I've seen and heard across radio platforms and TV platforms, social media today. A lot of people, arguing, some people bringing up wanting to harsh more on the off the court misstep from 2003, harsh more on that, have the gall to refer to him as a rapist, rather than look at the man that came in at the highs, was a champion, took a misstep, was able to repair that, get back to a champion, and leave on his own terms. That to me is the story, not one single solitary moment. Because let's face it, we kind of all grew up with Kobe. We kind of all. We watched him grow up before our eyes. The fact that he came in at such a young, tender age, this skinny 17-year-old who, before our eyes, grew into a man, grew into a champion, and grew into someone that you hope every NBA star, every athlete after him would be like. It's just, that's such a sad day, such a surreal day. I still can't wrap my arms around it. I can't even imagine what his wife, Vanessa, his other 3 daughters are going through right now, what those other families are going through, of the other lives that were lost on this, just heartbreaking accident. There's no one single person to blame. Whoever allowed them to take off through the fog like that probably should have not given them the special benefits, but should have been a little more up in arms about it. But as I said, that's hindsight now that this happened. All we can do is just celebrate his life, celebrate their lives the best we can, and pay homage to them the best we can, to both Kobe, Gianna, and all of the lives that were lost, changed, and affected in this just absolutely heartbreaking, gut-wrenching moment in life.
Hours. Shouldn't we be doing something we love? Call Connecticut School of Broadcasting at 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to gocsb.com. Since 1964, Connecticut School of Broadcasting, with a network of 12 campuses from Massachusetts to Miami, has helped place thousands of grads as DJs, sportscasters, entertainment reporters, behind the scenes in audio and video production, every aspect of the broadcast media. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has trained men and women of all ages and backgrounds in a matter of months, not years. Learn by doing from area radio and TV pros. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to gocsb.com. Remember, it's never too late to love what you do. Day and evening classes begin soon. Get trained. Get connected now.
The other argument I saw brought up a lot in the last 24 hours is about the fact that yesterday there were, 8 or 9 games taking place across the league, and there were a lot of people that said, "Oh, they shouldn't play. Let's cancel all the games." Then there were those who said, "Oh no, Kobe wouldn't want this. Play for Kobe. Do this for Kobe." You know what? I can understand both sides of the aisle. I can understand how both sides feel, but no, to me, that's a spot where you leave it in the players' hands and the team's hands. You know, if I'm sure not everybody of the 16 teams that were playing yesterday. I'm sure not everyone on all those teams wanted to be out there, wanted to play. I mean, you saw, Kyrie Irving was so emotional that he told the Nets, "No, I can't go tonight." And I know I've been Kyrie's harshest critic. I can't rip him for that. I don't blame him. He grew up watching the man play. Got into the pros, developed a really good relationship with Kobe. It had him too emotional to step on the court. How can you really blame him? How can you say that? No, I mean, if you were in his shoes and you lost someone you cared about that much, and it's just. I guess it affects everybody differently. It was very touching, the tribute that went around the league yesterday. It was first started by the Hawks and Wizards with Trae Young wearing a number 8 jersey to start the game, intentionally taking a backcourt 8-second backcourt violation, and then the Wizards following that up with taking a 24-second shot clock violation. And you saw all across the league, everybody did it all throughout the night. You saw at Madison Square Garden, they had the top of the rafters lit up purple and gold in acknowledgement of Kobe Bryant, lit up for him. You saw how it affected everyone all across the league, with Doc Rivers barely being able to get through his pregame presser without shedding tears, talking about how him and Kobe, he just saw him a couple weeks ago, and they were going back and forth, ribbing the other with Kobe talking about losing the 2008 finals to them. Doc talking about losing the 2010 finals to them. Saw the Greg Popovich, I thought, put it best. Great game, tough loss. Who cares? No. And thank the media for giving the players their privacy. You saw the reaction of LeBron James and the fact that they find out while they're in the air flying home from Philadelphia. He was emotional there on the tarmac. Tiger Woods, after his final round at the Farmers Open yesterday, is told by his caddy and was just in a state of shock as a guy that has grown up, is a lifetime Lakers fan. Just all the way around, you realize how beloved Kobe Bryant was. And I mentioned earlier that my core group of friends, everyone my age group, we saw Jordan play, but we don't have the full understanding of his greatness and didn't get to see the entirety of his career. So that's why, Kobe, there was always the saying, "I'll be like Mike." Well, for us, it was always, be like Kobe. When we're shooting hoops in our driveways or on the playground, take that step back J, you hoist the shot up, everyone goes Kobe, and that was just always the thing. And as I said, it's just such a shame. And a week that was supposed to be such a big celebration. The night before, LeBron, we knew it was coming, but it finally happened with LeBron passing Kobe for third all time on the scoring list, and doing it in Philadelphia, the state, the town and state near where Kobe Bryant grew up. Last week, us getting to bear witness to what we hope is the next great thing in this league in Zion Williamson, the excitement he brought in making his NBA debut against the Spurs last Wednesday. I can tell you this, I was jumping up and down on my couch like a little kid when he scored those 11 points in like a minute and a half and had the three or four 3-pointers in a row like that, and just like this is awesome. And then the feeling of disappointment when he got taken out with about 5 minutes to go. Just you hope that it was just going to be an all celebratory week for the NBA, especially we're 2 weeks out. 2-3 weeks out from what's the biggest event of the NBA calendar, All-Star Weekend. And a lot of these All-Star Weekends tend to be duds, like the Pro Bowl. I don't know who even actually watched that yesterday because it doesn't truly feel like real football. The NBA, the Major League Baseball All-Star Game, you look at that, and you see how pitchers are only staying in for like an inning. Batters aren't even playing the full game. It feels more like an exhibition than anything else. But the NBA All-Star Game, of all of them, just comes across the best. The players, there's a lack of defense at times. It turns into a dunk contest at points in the second and third quarters, especially and you could hear the slight anger in Marv Albert's voice as he's calling this, but the players actually care about winning. They care about this game. You see, down early on and then down the stretch, them lock down, get more tenacious on their defense. Things start to turn into mano-a-mano, one-on-one matchups. And then, add in the night before, with all the All-Star festivities, the fact that you see, essentially if you watch that night, you look around and you see greatness before your eyes. You see the history of the NBA because, as I mentioned before, prior to yesterday, every previous NBA MVP was still with us, with the exception of both Chamberlain and Moses Malone. Both of them were still with us, and you'd see the likes of Bill Russell. You see Kareem Abdul-Jabbar out there. You see, of course, all the guys from the TNT crew. You see, Scottie Pippen. All the former players come back out. Hell, you see their excitement when these dunks are made. The 3-point shots are hoisted up. You see, this year Dwight Howard is getting back into the dunk contest after being out of it for 10 years. And last week, he had asked Kobe to be a participant in it with him, be involved in helping set up his one of his dunks for it. And Kobe also was someone who was a strong endorser of the WNBA. So someone who was very much a supporter of theirs, the growth of their game over the last, was it been 20, 25 years the WNBA's been in existence, and even talked about this recently, it was like a week and a half ago, saying that he truly believes that the likes of Diana Taurasi, Lena Deladon, and Maya Moore, amongst others, could play in the NBA right now. Just, all just over time, us as fans are gonna emotionally heal from this. We're gonna be able to, look back on Kobe and smile, but today it hurts. Today it really does hurt. So I don't blame any of the players that didn't play yesterday. I don't blame the league for not canceling the games. As I said, that should be in the players' hands for that. And I wish I could sit here more and be talking about how excited I was for LeBron or for Zion, but it's really it's a sad day. And the best I can do here with this is, I do have some other things I want to talk about, do have some other things I want to get to, and hopefully over the course of this next break here can once again attempt to fight back the tears, fight back the emotions of losing one of my favorite NBA players of all time. So I'm going to take a quick break here, come back on the other side, and continue keeping it sports with M3.
It's been 48 years Connecticut School of Broadcasting has helped place thousands of people, just like you, in exciting careers in radio, television, and the new media. At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, our hands-on approach is different. It's designed to have you spend less time in the classroom and more time in the studios. From the first day, you'll work with state-of-the-art equipment. Learn by doing from our team of industry professionals who come from their studios to ours. The best part about it, you'll learn it all in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has a network of 12 campuses from Massachusetts to Miami. Remember, it's never too late to love what you do. So do what I did. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO. Step into the fast-paced world of the broadcast media. Day and evening classes begin soon. Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Get trained and get connected now. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com.
Welcome back to Keeping It Sports with M3. Amongst all the headlines that have come down in the last week, the Mets finally named a new manager, naming Luis Rojas as their new manager. And I kind of figured that it was going to be him. Now, he was someone that they really liked in the initial interview process. Someone that they had a strong belief and opinion on. He had been a coach in their system for the better part of the last decade. Served last year as a quality control coach for this team. And, in his time as a manager throughout the minor leagues, he managed a lot of these players that you see on the Mets today, like DeGrom, believe he had both McNeil and Alonzo, Steven Matz along the way, Jerry's Familia. A lot of guys have a lot of high opinions on him. It remains to be seen how he does in the pressure cooker as far as being a Major League Baseball manager. Especially when it comes to, in my opinion, the toughest thing to do as a manager is running your bullpen. Make sure you get your guys the proper work while not overusing them, knowing when to pull a starting pitcher out of the game. Not going to be so tough for him once every 5 days because you got Jacob deGrom there. The key is going to be what happens with the other 4 spots. Will it be, can Syndergaard finally step up and pitch like a great pitcher, like the pitcher he thinks he is? Do you get a bounce back year by Rick Porcello? What do you get out of Matz? Can Marcus Stroman concern himself more with what he's doing on the field rather than tweeting at media members and ripping anybody that doesn't have the same opinions about things as he does? So those are going to be kind of the keys you look at for Rojas. But I can't say it's a bad hire. I can't say it's a good hire yet because I haven't seen him manage yet. And a lot of people wanted them to go with the more experienced guy. They wanted to see Buck Showalter. They wanted to see Dusty Baker in there. Problem is, they did not interview either of them in the initial interview process back when they hired Carlos Beltran in early November. So it would make them look bad. The Wilpons make Brody Van Wagenen look bad if now they brought them in after all that's happening. As I said, this wasn't the Mets' fault. This wasn't. You can't blame them for anything that happened here with the Astros situation. It's just unfortunately a unlucky thing that they got caught in the middle of along the way here. So, best of luck to Luis Rojas. We'll see how he does going forward here. Now, the other thing with baseball is, of course, the thing that I was mostly paying attention to, and that's the Hall of Fame announcement last week. We were waiting to see, A, was Derek Jeter going to be unanimous, and B, was anyone else going to get in with him? Well, the answer to B is yes, someone else did go in, get voted in with him. On his last time on the ballot, Larry Walker was voted in. And Larry Walker's not a guy that I necessarily would have voted for if I had a vote, because I look at Larry Walker's career and I'm like, all right, he has good numbers, but I don't feel like he was a dominant player. See, to me, the Hall of Fame is about dominant players. It's about guys who were the top 10% of their craft for a long time. And the fact that I look at his, I not just look at the career totality, because that's what I think the writers do a lot. They look at the end result, what were the final numbers, and decide it. To me, you can't just go by the final numbers. You need to look at and see, how did he get there? And the fact that, yeah, he had over 2,100 hits, but over the course of 17 years. To me, that's not dominance. That's not a guy that was, always a top player. I mean, you look at the last 2 years of his career, he missed a lot of time in his time with St. Louis and Colorado in the final 2 years due to injuries. He only played more than 150 games once. You look at the home run totals, he only had 30 or more home runs 4 4 times over 17 years and had 100 RBIs 5 times. To me, that's not a Hall of Famer. I mean, good for him. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen when it comes to the Hall of Fame, but I feel like sometimes the writers are trying too hard to make it the Hall of Very Good rather than the Hall of Fame, trying to justify the fact that they have 10 spots there, thinking, oh, I got to fill up all these spots. I'm like, no, you don't. Just vote for who you think is actually a Hall of Famer. And that leads me to Derek Jeter. Derek Jeter, we all knew he was going into the Hall of Fame. We knew he was a lock. I mean, the thing I'll say about Jeter here is, while he wasn't Ozzie Smith as far as a defensive shortstop, he didn't have the range of him. He didn't have the throwing arm of Jose Reyes or Cal Ripken, or wasn't as great as even A-Rod was as a shortstop. You hit the ball to him, he was going to make the play. In the toughest of moments, he was the guy you wanted out there to make the play. He made, I could tell you this in all my years of watching him as Yankee shortstop, there was never a time where I was like, oh, I'm disappointed Derek Jeter is out there playing defense for us. There was never a time where I thought, oh, he's very costly or a true liability for us as the Yankee shortstop. He never led the league in home runs, never led it in RBIs. The fact he was good at everything. You put that all together, that was what made him a great player. Add to the fact that he spent his entire career in the postseason, and you could say, oh, other players didn't have that same kind of opportunity. Well, the Yankees probably don't get there as many times without Derek Jeter. In 158 career games in the postseason, he had 200 hits. He had a lifetime average of 308 in the postseason. So, and that's only 2 points off of what his batting average was in the regular season. So he was as good in the regular season as he was in the postseason. When the lights shine bright in the biggest of spots, that's what made him a Hall of Famer. And I'm not angry he didn't get unanimous here. My problem is the fact that it was one person that didn't vote for him. And we still don't know who that one person is. The fact that it's been almost a week now, and that person hasn't had the gall, the guts to put their name behind it, post a picture of their ballot on Twitter, and show us who you are. All right? Everyone else out there that voted has been showing us, the main guys that that you see on TV all the times, the likes of the Tom Verducci's, Ken Rosenthal, Peter Gammons, all of them that have votes that are on TV. They have put their ballot out there. They've shown us who they voted for. This one person out there is hiding, and that's my problem. It's one person. It's not that Jeter didn't get unanimous, because if he only got 85, 90%, I'd say, all right, sucks he didn't get unanimous, and you 10 to 15% that didn't vote for him are wrong. You're living by this old theory that, oh, Joe DiMaggio wasn't voted in first time, so I don't believe in anyone first time. Or the fact that Ken Griffey Jr., Tom Seaver, Greg Maddux, Randy Johnson, any of the all-time greats before him that were first ballot Hall of Famers, outside of Mariano Rivera, weren't voted unanimously. So I'm not going to vote for him unanimously. That is a stupid theory to think of, all right? Just because people made mistakes before you doesn't mean you should continue to make that mistake. My big problem here, One person is trying to make this story about himself. He or she is trying to make themselves famous off of the captain. And while he is acting like no big deal, he is saying, "Oh, I'm just glad to be in the Hall of Fame." I got a big deal with it. I got a big problem with it. Show some guts. Put your name behind it. Let us know who you are. Tell us why you didn't vote for Derek Jeter rather than hide behind your ballot, hide behind your social media, behind whatever outlet you report for, and let us know why you did it, why you decided to not vote for Jeter. Give us a reason. Tell us why you're trying to make yourself famous at the captain's expense. That's what has me really annoyed, ticked off, and bothered today. And believe me, this is not me, grasping for anger based off the sadness I've had for the last 24 hours. No, I've been pissed about this for 7 days now. I want to know who you are. Show some guts. Put your name out there and tell us why you did this. All right? Last year, everybody... I thought last year they made the ruling that all the ballots were made public. Apparently that turns out not to be true. Everyone just decided to make their ballots public. And you had that one writer that originally said he wasn't going to send his ballot in because he wasn't going to vote for Rivera and didn't want to cost against him being unanimous. Then we all shamed him into putting his ballot in there and voting for Rivera. Apparently that's not so. And the writers, a majority of the writers want these ballots to be made public. The Hall of Fame is just not doing so because they're worried about public pressure when it comes to the voting process. All right. This isn't voting for president. This isn't voting for politicians here. This is voting for a form of entertainment's Hall of Fame, baseball's Hall of Fame in this case. We deserve to know who's voting, how the process was completed, and know who didn't vote for who and who did vote for who. All right? Show a little guts rather than cower behind your keyboards. Now, that's not the only thing that had me annoyed, had me angered by the Hall of Fame. What also had me pissed off is as I'm looking across the ballot, as I'm looking around it, I knew Curt Schilling wasn't going to get in. He was going to jump up 61% of the vote, from 61% of the vote, all the way to 75. They were going to make him wait one more year, going to make him wait as long as possible, especially when you look at next year's ballot. There's no one as far as a first-timer that's a Hall of Famer. Mark Burley, Torrey Hunter, give me a break. Those guys aren't Hall of Famers. They were good players, don't get me wrong, not scrubs, but they weren't Hall of Famers. So they're going to make him wait. While I would have voted for Bonds and Clemens, I understand why they don't vote for him. I understand why they've only crept up each 1% because, neither one of them had to do PEDs. It's not like McGwire and Sosa, who their entire careers were built off PEDs. That Roger Clemens, everyone thought he was done after he left the Red Sox after 96. He starts doing steroids, HGH, extended his career for another decade. Barry Bonds was undisputedly the best player in the as we headed into the late 90s, but he saw all the national attention that McGwire and Sosa were getting for their summer of 98 home run chase that now turns out to be an entire farce. And he's like, I'm twice the player either of these guys are. They're getting all the love, adulation. Watch this. I'm going to go destroy the record books. So while I wouldn't live on that side of the aisle, I understand where they're coming from. They're trying to be the guardians at the door of the Hall of Fame, especially because you become a Hall of Famer. You make a lot of money off doing so. There's financial gains in becoming a baseball Hall of Famer, and they want to prevent Bonds and Clemens from getting those financial privileges. Now, as far as below them on the ballot, this is where I get annoyed, because I look at it and I say, what are these writers doing? Yeah, they say, we have 10 spots. That doesn't mean you have to use all 10 spots, especially when I see Omar Vizquel getting over 50%. Great defensive player, but as I've said before, there are two sides of the game, offense and defense. And while he won 11 Gold Gloves, all good and everything, was as good a defensive shortstop as you'll ever see, he had 2,800 hits over the course of 24 years. He's a worse compiler than Craig Biggio was. I don't get what they're looking at there with Vizquel to think that he should be a Hall of Famer, as well as Scott Rowland. Where's all of the sudden love coming for this guy? He jumps from 17% last year to 35% this year, and they're judging it. Oh, look at his career WAR. Look at how great of a fielder he was. His fielding WAR at the end. As I said, don't look at the bottom line. The way I judge a Hall of Famer is A, eye test. When I was watching them, did I feel I was watching a Hall of Famer? And B, I go and I use stats as a guide, not the end-all, be-all. And I look back and I see, all right, how many truly Hall of Fame career years did this person have? How involved were they as far as the MVP chase? And Scott Rowland was voted in the top 10 of the MVP only one time, voted in the top 20 only twice. Apparently back in the 90s, they'd vote for the top 25 in the MVP race. They actually dared to keep track of that. But he drove in 100 runs only 5 times over the course of 17 years. And his numbers, he was only a 281 hitter. He had 316 home runs, went above 30 home runs 3 times, was above 25 home runs 6 times over the course of his career. He had a nice career. He was a good player. He lasted 17 years in the league. I'm not going to make him out to be a scrub, but Scott Rowland was not a Hall of Famer. And it makes me even more angry when I see him get all this love, but no love and support for Jeff Kent. I'll say it again. I said it last week. Did Jeff Kent kill somebody? Did he do something to harm someone that makes him not a Hall of Famer in everyone's eyes? I don't get it. He didn't even get 30% on the ballot. He was at 27.5%. He was below Manny Ramirez, below Todd Helton, who he was a much better player than Todd Helton. If I have to bring this up to you all again, I will. He has the most home runs all time by a second baseman at 351. Most RBIs all time of a second baseman at 1,623. He actually has more home runs than the 351. He was 377 lifetime. I think the 351 was just playing second base that day, not days he might have had a DH day or been a pinch hitter. But you look at, he had about a 9-year stretch there from 97 through 2005, 8-9 year stretch there, where he was clearly one of the better players in the league. And for some reason, I don't get it, if it's just they don't like him, they thought his defense was bad. He does not get any support from the writers, yet these are the same people that probably voted him as the league MVP back in 2000, in the year 2000. It makes no sense to me. And on top of that, then when I go to the bottom portion of the ballot and I'm seeing the likes of, Brad Penny and Cliff Lee getting votes, I'm like, what are we doing here? How are these? This goes back to what I once said, where you see writers decide, you know what? I don't think this player was a Hall of Famer, but I liked him, so I'll throw him a bone. Make sure that he doesn't go blank. You want to show a guy love, show him support. You write him a letter, say, you know what? I didn't think you had a Hall of Fame career, but you had a very good career, good enough career to not just make it to the big leagues, but last a long time and be good enough for me to decide if you are Hall of Fame worthy or not. I just wanted to show that your name was on this ballot. I mean, you think, the likes of, Cliff Lee, Raul Ibanez, J.J. Putz, Brad Penny, Adam Dunn, Eric Chavez, Alfonso Soriano, Jason Giambi, Paul Konerko. You think it makes them feel better that, you gave them a vote, make sure that they didn't go voteless on the ballot, even though they were eliminated on the first time? I mean, really, what does that prove? Does it make them feel better? Does it make you feel all good inside? One of the people that voted for them is probably the bonehead that didn't vote for Jeter. And as I said before, show some guts, put your name behind it, and let us know who you are, so we have the right to criticize you. All right, I'm going to take one last break here, come back on the other side, pay tribute to another legend in the sports world who decided to call it quits this past week. Continue keeping it sports with M3.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting founder Dick Robinson.
The media business has changed a lot since we opened our doors in 1964. Now media content is everywhere, on air, online, on the go. More than ever, companies are looking for people to help drive this new media.
At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, you'll get hands-on training on the latest software and equipment in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has placed thousands of grads in broadcast media careers.
It's all about versatility. You see, at a radio station, if you also know how to shoot, edit, and post videos, you become a pretty hot commodity. That's the training you get at Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting, with locations up and down the East Coast, from Massachusetts to Miami. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to gocsb.com. Connecticut School of Broadcasting, the nation's oldest and largest group of broadcast media schools, redefining training in radio, TV, and new media. Get trained. Get connected. 1-800-TV-RADIO.
Welcome back to Keeping It Sports with M3. Glad those of you who are watching or listening this week could join me on the podcast. In what was to be a week of celebration last week, now somewhat lost in the mix of things, was the announcement of Eli Manning retiring. And, it's not a surprise to anyone. You figured that this was the route he was going to go, with the fact that the Giants' future at quarterback clearly lies in the hands of Daniel Jones now. And probably waited a couple weeks to scour the landscape and see if there was any other opportunities to be a starting quarterback, if there were places like, wouldn't it have been ironic if the Chargers had any interest now after all these years later, or see if he go to Jacksonville, be their starting quarterback, or if there was going to be any interest around the league, was going to be one to uproot his life and go be a backup. So this is the route he took, and respect that. Respect the fact that, as he put it, he brought up a quote from John Mara in his press conference the other day saying that once a giant, always a giant. For him, it was only a giant, and you respect that. A guy that this is the only organization he's ever known, that he's ever been a part of, and this is the only jersey, only team he ever wants to be affiliated with. And it was a good bright spot moment for the Giants in what's been a last couple of years of not so bright spot moments. They got to have a great day with him announcing his retirement, seeing all the Giant greats that either have their numbers retired or in the Ring of Honor come back, be part of this. Guys that were his teammates, you saw there at the press conference. It was a very cool moment for Eli Manning. And now we begin 5 years of debate. We begin 5 years of, is Eli Manning a Hall of Famer? That's you knew that argument was going to begin once he retired. It's been something we've discussed for a long time. There was always the topic discussion of, is Eli Manning elite? Well, I didn't consider him elite just because I looked at, was he as good as his brother? No, his brother was the greatest regular season quarterback of all time. Was he as good as Tom Brady? No, he was better than him on 2 days, but he was not, for the career totality, was not as good as Brady. Rodgers, Breeze, no. You look at his numbers compared to the likes of Tony Romo and Matt Ryan. While his numbers are good, they still have better overall numbers than he does year for year. And what's going to be interesting in this process is how the support for Eli and against Eli goes. Because you look at for Eli, it's very simple. He stopped what was thought to be unstoppable. He prevented the Patriots from completing the greatest season ever in defeating them in Super Bowl 42. They prevented the perfect season, and everyone thought that, that's just a fluke, that no big deal. That everybody can get lucky every once in a while. Looking at how everything went right for them, especially with the David Tyree catch off the helmet. And what does he do? 4 years later, comes back, proves it's not a fluke, has the big play to Mario Manningham down the sidelines en route to another game-winning drive, defeating the Patriots for second time in a 5-year span to win his second Super Bowl title, winning his second Super Bowl MVP award. And you add on top of that the fact that he was an Iron Man. He played 210 consecutive games until that dope Ben McAdoo benched him for Geno Smith. And at the time, at least my problem with it was the fact that Ben McAdoo had the gall to tell us he thinks this gives us the best chance at winning that game, playing Geno Smith. In a year where McAdoo never gave us quotes other than, I got to go see the tape. He was willing to give us a comment then. Add in the fact that you had a young third-round quarterback in Davis Webb, who everyone was interested in seeing, that was unproven, untested, that you at least wanted to see if he had something in him. See, if Eli would have been benched that game at that point when they were 2-9 for Davis Webb, that's one thing. You got to see him. Everyone already knew that Geno Smith stunk. So there was no point in doing that. And even the insulting way they went along with that in saying, oh, well, offering him the chance to start the games and then pull him after a drive or two for Geno Smith. And you also respect the way he handled himself with grace and class through all of that. The constant criticism he got from the New York media when he'd have a bad game, or the 3 years that he led the league in interceptions. Now and how well he handled the fact that he was Archie Manning's son and Peyton Manning's little brother, being able to develop his own legacy while of being a NFL quarterback, being not as great as Peyton Manning, but also not being a stiff, not being a guy that was out of the league in 3 years. And the willingness to play through injury. People will call him a compiler with his numbers because his numbers aren't so great, aren't so gaudy. Well, to be a compiler, you got to make yourself available. I've always said the best ability is availability. And for 210 straight games, he made himself available to the New York Giants. Now, there's also unfortunately for him, there's the argument that goes against him. The fact that he had two of the greatest playoff runs in the history of this sport. But in the 4 other years they made the postseason, they didn't win a game. He goes 4 for 4 in his 2 Super Bowl runs as far as wins, but was 0 for 4 in his 4 other playoff years. And in 16 years, making the playoffs only 6 times as a starting quarterback in a big market, not a great look. Add in the fact that his teams only won double digits 5 times. He led the league in interceptions 3 times and had as many losing seasons as he did winning seasons. And his career record, which I don't hold that against him because you watch the Giants the last 5 years, 2015 was a blip on the radar. They had, after that last Super Bowl, they had some really bad teams in here. But his career record is 117 and 117. And as Bill Parcells used to say, you are what your record says you are. Those are the kind of things that those who vote on this, those who decide this, may hold against him in 5 years. But we got plenty of time to decide it. Not that anything will change his numbers, change his legacy over the next 5 years. But when we get to that time, you got to see who else is on the ballot. Because the only other first-timer, a notable first-timer with him on the ballot will be Luke Kuechly. You got to see who's else is there as far as the holdovers on that ballot, who else is going to be eligible at the time. So it's a fun debate, spirited debate that we're going to have for the next 5 years. I'm glad I don't have to make the decision on this because, honestly, I could not make a vote either way. I don't think he's a undisputed first ballot lock of a Hall of Famer. I could see the flaws there, but you can't write the story of the NFL history without Eli Manning. And the fact that he was not a journeyman, that he was such a workhorse and continuously out there, always when you got to the fourth quarter, at least gave his team a shot to win the game. There's at least some credence, some credibility that goes to that, along with being a 2-time Super Bowl MVP. And that, my friends, is Keeping It Sports with M3 for Monday, January 27th, 2020. Now, as I said, we're all in pain today. We're still all in shock, still reeling from the news yesterday. But, keep the Bryant family, the Lakers family, the families of those other lives lost in your hearts and prayers tonight. Keep them in your thoughts. And hopefully at some point we can look back on Kobe Bryant's life and legacy with a smile rather than the sadness and depression that we have today. Talk to you next week, everyone. Peace.
We have to go. Good night, everybody.
I have had enough of you!
Thank you for all the fun. Thank you. Hey, shut up, will ya?
I don't want to see you, I don't want to hear you, I don't want to smell you. Now leave. I'll be back.